Hello, friends. Welcome to another edition of In the Car with Star. I am your host, as always, coming at you live from my beautiful Nissan Maxima, Ashgregoire, Chambly Nissan, 4299 Autoroute 440 West in Laval. In the aftermath of the Montreal Canadiens, my friends, going down at the Bell Centre to the miserable sixth place in the Pacific Division before last night, Calgary Flames, who skated off with a 2-1 win. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of the finer points of last night's results and the lack of goal-scoring production and what happened and where's it gone to and if and when is it coming back. But pleasure as always to be here today, coming at you from beautiful Notre Dame de Grasse, one of the better neighborhoods as far as I'm concerned in beautiful Montreal. Here we are at 5854 Sherbrooke Street West, stationed right in front of an awesome neighborhood joint, Mange Tout. If you're not so sure about, what's gone on in the food space these days, sandwiches have become kind of trendy. And when it comes to separating yourself from the pack, what are you doing and what are you doing differently and what are the people saying about your product? And I've heard nothing but great things about Mange Tout. Now, this is kind of interesting because it really is so much a neighborhood spot here in NDG at 5854 Sherbrooke Street West. Grocery store, butcher, fishmonger, sandwiches, raw bar. The guys behind it all, Luca and Zach, Regina, front of house style, obviously welcoming you in with open arms and a neighborhood joint, right? Which is kind of interesting because it's a cool little spot, but it's also like, yeah, you can get steaks. You can get fish, delicious halibut, raw bar, salmon, crab legs, lobster tails. Doesn't seem to matter because they have all the options. But yet we're here to talk about their sandwiches. And like a lot of places, like we talked about last week, turkey club, chicken cutlet, sausage, meatball. It doesn't seem to matter. A lot of people do it. A lot of people have their own unique spin. But what really moves the needle for me is when your menu consists of something that is a little unorthodox, a little different, and that brings us to Mange Tout. So let's get into the Montreal Canadiens as I got my professional bib situation underway. And as I mentioned, they've been around. They're open 7 days a week, and they just finished celebrating their 1-year anniversary. So you can check them out, give them a call, email them, info@mangetout.com. From their fish, seafood, butcher counter paired with local wines, beer and ciders. They obviously look forward to seeing you here at Mange Tout. Épicerie, fisherie, poissonnerie, you name it, they've got it here at Mange Tout. And I'm very excited to talk about the Montreal Canadiens and try this delicious banged out sandwiches. And you're going to a proper place. You're going to a proper place. Good weight to the sandwich. I like already. The butcher paper. I love the butcher paper. And last week when I was eating a Marchigiani sandwich, I made a mess and spilt it all over myself. So today I've learned from my mistakes and I've got myself some serviettes. What'd y'all think of that game last night? The Canadiens lose to the miserable Calgary Flames. If you listen to me on the morning show with Connor McKenna on TSN 690, towards the end of yesterday's show, I talked about the fact that I like Calgary to win. It seems to be a little bit of a trend, despite the fact that Montreal has already beaten teams like Vegas and the Boston Bruins, given everything they had to the Toronto Maple Leafs. The better teams outside of the New Jersey Devils who beat Montreal 5-2, the Canadiens have done well against the better clubs in the league this season. But when it comes to the almost lesser thans, I suppose, the teams that perhaps are on the Canadiens level competitively, Montreal doesn't do so well. And last night they lose 2-1, but it's not all bad news. It's not all bad news, which makes me want to enjoy this sandwich a lot more. And look, we already got the grease stains, so this is a legitimate sandwich. Oh, the smell test! I can smell the barbecue. So what I went through today, and I'm going to get into the Canadiens, don't worry. But what I went into today was different specialty sandwiches that I'm going to take you to places that you can get them here. And so we're here at Mange Tout in NDG this morning. And at what time is it? It's 11:06, so I don't feel as bad or as fat eating this sandwich at 11:06 as opposed to if I did this at 10:15 today. But you know what they do at this place? Look at this bread. Look how, oh my God. Look at that. Oh my God. I'm going to open it up for a second. Oh my God. Look at all that. Look at that smoked brisket. Oh, my mouth is watering. Look at that coleslaw. You got fresh carrots. You've got coleslaw. Look at the char on that. Look at the char on that brisket. Oh my God. So they do. The smell is just perfuming the cabin of my Nissan Maxima. Oh, the saliva management. Oh, I can't wait to take a bite of this. This in honor. This is for you, Josh Anderson. I'm eating this sandwich for you because, dude, man, I thought you played a hell of a game. Let's eat a brisket sandwich. Mm-hmm. The meat's nice and tender, juicy. It's so important. Oh, the flavors are on point. Someone that knows what they're doing, smoking meats and barbecuing is an art form, man. Not everybody can do this. And the first bite, this sandwich is a total banger. 5854 Sherbrooke West. We're here at Mange Tout. This is in honor of you, Josh Anderson. You had a banger. I'm giving you a 3-bite review today. I'm going to take another bite of this sandwich because, Josh Anderson, you played so well last night. I'm cheering for you, brother. You've got no goals in 16 games. This bite's for you. I love coleslaw. I love coleslaw on a sandwich because it adds so much texture. And when you have a fatty sandwich, like a piece of brisket, right? Always remember, fat is flavor. No fat, no flavor. So if you're going to come at me and you're going to smoke a piece of brisket, welcome to Flavor Town, Canada, baby. And we're here. And Josh Anderson, who's on no goals and 2 points through 16 games, was all over the place last night. But there's one element of Anderson's game that nevertheless remains frustrating for me. He's still too predictable. He had 7 shot attempts last night. He almost got 5. He almost got 5 minutes of power play time yesterday. And he was ripping shots, and he was skating up and down the ice. And it's hard not to love a guy like Josh Anderson when you watch him on the surface, right? You watch him on the surface, you see a big guy, you see a fast guy, he can fly. The problem for me with Josh Anderson, and I say this as someone that never played in the NHL, breaking news, I have never played in the NHL. Let me tell you something. You eat brisket sandwiches at 11 o'clock in the morning, you're never going to make it to the NHL. Here's another bite for you, Josh Anderson. Oh, my God. You have to run to this place and have the brisket sandwich. Just the perfection of the cook on this, going with the bread. The bread is so important. The bread, for me, can make or break your sandwich. If your bread, the vessel of your vehicle, is dry, is too bready, is too commercially made, you're done. You are not going to survive in this game. So congratulations to Luca and Zach. And if you're wondering about the credentials, right? Like, these are established restaurateurs in Montreal that decided to open up their own shop. We're talking about people that are coming from places like Lucille's, places like Arthur's, established, credentialed, must-go-to spots in our city, and now they've come here and opened up their own spot, and we're chowing down on some delicious brisket sandwiches in honor of Josh Anderson, who had one of his best games this season and didn't score a bleeping goal. And here we are pumping this guy's tires. But if there's one thing I want him to be better at, and I see this as someone that never played in the NHL and is not a scout, it's just too predictable. There was a stretch in the second period where he's coming down the left side with a shitload of speed. And what does he do? A Calgary Flame defenseman ultimately ends up crashing inside of Jacob Markstrom's net. Josh Anderson, when we see a lot of good premier goal scorers in the NHL, man, they give defensemen so many different looks. Anderson was right there, skating at full speed, and he does what he does. If you have half a brain and you have a little bit of work ethic, and you're going to do some advanced scouting on Josh Anderson, you know exactly how to defend this guy, and that's exactly what happened yesterday, despite Martin St. Louis taking him under his wing and making him a pet project to be someone more diverse and less predictable when he's out there on the ice. But what happened? He goes and drives to the net. He doesn't really get there. Instead of, and this is what I said to myself when I was watching this unfold in real time, how about slamming on the brakes? Hard edge, cut to the middle, get your opportunity to get to the slot and fire off a puck from a dangerous spot on the ice. We see high-end premier players with speed gaining zone entry and doing just that. It is a criticism of Josh Anderson, but it's not an indictment necessarily of who he's always going to be. It's going to be on him to give the opposition, those other defensemen, different looks, less predictable, but it's starting to come. I mean, how many more posts does this guy have to hit before it ultimately goes in? So he was right there. And so full marks to Josh Anderson. He was buzzing all game. There's no doubt in my mind, and I say this knowing the fact that the Canadiens have scored a combined 3 goals total in 2 games, that breaking up Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki has made, I think, the Montreal Canadiens a better team. And we spoke about this last week. I love the fact that Christian Dvorak is now Juraj Slafkovsky's centerman. And how about that? Christian Dvorak's beautiful saucer pass from over the net to Gustav Lindstrom, who fired home his first goal of the season. His first goal, obviously, as a Montreal Canadien. But that is also an indictment of where the Canadiens are at in terms of being so stagnant defensively. Did you know that of the Canadiens' last 8 total goals, 5 of them have come from the blue line? So yes, that remains a little bit of an issue, knowing the fact that Cole Caulfield hasn't scored an even strength goal yet, knowing that Cole Caulfield's projected to score 25 goals this season. That would be a very disappointing number. So the Canadiens, no doubt, are suffering through their first kind of offensive slump of the year. The power play's going, so there's a little bit of a silver lining, but they also haven't scored more than 3 goals in 8 straight games. So there is a growing sample size of whether it's other teams figuring out the tendencies of the Montreal Canadiens, or is this a domino effect of the Kirby Dach injury, Christian Dvorak back, and some have kind of lost their groove, and then they split up Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki, and now you're trying to learn in real time chemistry, build it with new line mates, and move forward. Unfortunately for the Montreal Canadiens, they have one more home date, and that's up against Vegas tomorrow night. Now, Vegas comes in as the 9th highest scoring team in the NHL, backstopped by Adin Hill, who rolls in with a .939 save percentage. After that, the Canadiens go to Boston, where the Bruins are scoring almost 3.5 goals a game this season. And you saw what happened. They put the boots to the Buffalo Sabres last night. That game was 3-0 before the ice was dry, and it was more or less over 5-2 the final. And by the way, Tage Thompson, the Sabres superstar, is now out for the foreseeable future after he blocked a shot from Charlie McAvoy. So the Canadiens deal with Boston on Saturday in Beantown. Then they hit the road out to California. They play the upstart Anaheim Ducks, who aren't as bad as some people thought out of the gate. Leo Carlsson just coming off his first career hat trick. Guess what? Anaheim scoring almost 3.2 goals per game. Then they go to San Jose. Now it's back down to earth. The Sharks, we know, crapola, infamous for allowing 20 total goals in 2 games. Back-to-back 10 spots they allowed. Guess what? They score less than a goal and a half per game. Then they're out to Los Angeles following that. Back to reality, where the LA Kings happen to be one of the highest scoring teams in hockey, scoring an even flat 4 goals per game. So you see what I'm saying? The month of November is definitely a challenging month for this team, and that's why the importance of, if they really have designs of making the playoffs, which they said is their goal, it's why Caden Primo doesn't play as often as some of you want to see him play. They are going with Jake Allen. They are going, obviously, with Sam Montembeault a little heavier because they are trying to make the playoffs and win hockey games. And so the trip ends in their final game before they come back home against Columbus, a team like Montreal that is struggling. We thought the rebuild was on and on in a big way in Columbus, great prospect pool, but as a direct result, they are the worst team in their division and score as many goals per game as the Canadiens do, which is 2.75. So a very steep uphill climb for the Canadiens, and an honor to get them motivated. I'm going to have another bite of my delicious smoked brisket sandwich review. Mange Tout, 5854 Sherbrooke Street West, grocery store, butcher, fishmonger, sandwiches, raw bar, and smoked brisket. How do you guys feel about that? I know I shouldn't talk with my mouth full, but I kind of keep this going, baby. Look how good that. The brisket is smoked so good. You get a little bit of the acid in there, but cheese, carrots, crunchy coleslaw, nice sauteed onions, and the perfect piece of bread that brings it all the way home. This is not commercial. This is bakery, fresh bread. You could still see the flour remnants on the side. This is an absolute banger. I've got a score coming up for you in a second. How'd you all feel about the Pierre Turgeon ceremony yesterday? because for me, I was kind of confused. Pierre Turgeon, had a great season with Montreal. Played a year and a half in this market. Was part of the deal that saw Vladimir Malagov and Kirk Muller and go out to the New York Islanders, and they brought Pierre Turgeon in, and was based on circumstance, was the guy that Maurice Richard passed the torch to. Even that in itself was very awkward. It didn't seem right. And yesterday, they honor Pierre Turgeon with his place now in the Canadiens' Ring of Honor. This wraps around the upper half of the Bell Center. Everybody that's played for the Canadiens in their NHL career that gets inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame gets immortalized in the Canadiens' Ring of Honor. And Pierre Turgeon was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame this week. And as a direct result, the Canadiens honor him by immortalizing him in this Ring of Honor we're talking about. And full transparency, I didn't watch the speech. Like I said, it was weird to me that Pierre Turgeon gets immortalized in a market like Montreal when it seems like that's something an expansion team would do. They're trying to build a culture in this hypothetical expansion market I'm talking about. The Montreal Canadiens are steeped in tradition, man. And they're honoring a guy who played over 100 games for the Canadiens and had 97 points in his one full season as a Canadian. Like, no disrespect, I don't even think Pierre Turgeon is a Hall of Famer. When I ask you what is the distinct moment of Pierre Turgeon's career, do we not all think it's the cross-check he got from Dale Hunter in the Stanley Cup playoffs? I mean, never did I think about Pierre Turgeon as a dominant player, a build-around player. And here I am shooting this guy down who's established in the Hockey Hall of Fame, eating smoked brisket sandwiches from my car and criticizing this guy. Let me take another bite. So, I don't know. I'm not making a big deal out of it. It's just weird to me. It's weird to me that, I grew up watching the Canadiens with great players, right? Saku Koivu, Andrei Markov, Thomas Buchanan, Alex Kovalev, and to go on, right? And all of those guys that I mentioned right now, you know what they all have in common as far as I'm concerned? From Koivu all the way down to Markov and everyone in between, I don't think any of them are Hall of Famers. Any of them are Hall of Famers. As much as you love Saku Koivu and, in your generation that you grew up in, Saku was perhaps your best player, your favorite player. I get it. It's not a criticism, right? Like, I don't want to get trapped in the vortex that some fans in this market get trapped in. Well, Stanley Cup or bust. It's not the same league anymore. It's a lot more teams than in the days of the Flying Frenchmen in the 50s and the 70s when the annual rite of spring was a parade down St. Catherine Street. Different generation, different team, different situations across the board. I don't think it's fair that a team led by Saku Koivu or anybody else has to be compared and measured up to Jean Beliveau and Maurice Richard or Yvan Cournoyer or Ken Dryden or any of those guys from the Dynasty eras we're talking about. Like, it's totally unfair to all of those guys and even to the greats of the past. Totally different set of circumstances. But how in the hell can you pay respect to the fan base in this market that grew up without Stanley Cups, without Hall of Famers being enshrined, while still admiring a guy like Saku Koivu, who did a lot of good that didn't necessarily translate to goals and assists on the ice, right? So it's a tricky spot for the organization to find themselves in. How do they do this? Andrei Markov is the best defenseman I've ever seen in my lifetime with the Montreal Canadiens. This guy almost got to 1,000 games. Remember, Alex Ovechkin said this is one of the hardest defensemen to match up against when he's out there on the ice. Andrei Markov was a marvelous defenseman, but nevertheless doesn't change the narrative that he isn't a Hockey Hall of Famer. And as a result, Andrei Markov, almost 1,000 games in his career, is just going to be, what, a footnote in history? While Pierre Turgeon played 100 and some odd games and had 97 points, he's immortalized, while Koivu and Markov and even Kovalev aren't. It just doesn't sit right with me. But here we are making a big deal when I said I wasn't going to make a big deal out of it. But that's what we tend to do here, So in the aftermath of that, it'll be interesting to see how the Canadiens pivot and what they do moving forward in terms of acknowledging a generation that's watched and supported the Montreal Canadiens without the results that maybe their grandparents got to enjoy. Another interesting little tidbit that broke yesterday was once again our provincial government doing who knows what. I can't make sense of it all. Did you catch this story? Apparently, the provincial government in Quebec threw their hand up and said we're willing to pay upwards of $7 million to the LA Kings to spend a week in Quebec City to do their training camp and play a couple of preseason games against Florida and the Boston Bruins. And the Montreal Canadiens confirmed that they told the provincial government here in Quebec, we'll do it, and we'll do it for free. We'll go to Quebec. We'll spend a week there. We'll play some preseason games. We'll help grow this provincial market. We'll go there. We'll do that. And the government said, yeah, we're good. We've got this. We've got this. And upward, dropping potentially $7 million to watch the LA Kings play Boston or play Florida. It's these things that I just want to bury my hands in the my face in the palms of my hand. I can't understand where this is going. What planet am I on? Who gives a crap? Well, Phil Deneau, you're bringing because they've got some Quebecers on the team. It's the Montreal Canadiens in your own province, and you want to bring in an American sports team to play two other American teams? FYI, does Francois Legault even know that Patrice Bergeron is retired? Does Francois Legault know that Jonathan Huberdeau doesn't play for the Florida Panthers anymore? Does Francois Legault know that Jonathan Huberdeau was at the Bell Center last night playing for the Calgary Flames? Just another backwards-ass day here in La Belle Province. But it's okay because we've got delicious sandwiches. We're here at Mange Tout having smoked brisket sandwiches made fresh. Come check them out. 5854 Sherpa Street West in NDG. Big tip of the cap to my boys Luca and Zach. This is a great neighborhood spot here in NDG. Yeah, we're not that far, I guess. We're right across the street, Pasta Casareccia, an Italian, a landmark, a lasagna institution. Directly across the street, Mauro and the boys over at the Pasta Casareccia. So yeah, like I was talking about before, obviously passionate about a lot of things in my life, in particular food and sports. And so I thought I would bring this and pay tribute to Josh Anderson for a great game last night. The Montreal Canadiens got robbed by Jacob Markstrom. I'm here to tell you, even though they've scored 3 total goals in their last 2 games, they haven't scored more than 3 goals in 8 straight. That the Montreal Canadiens showed you yesterday. They've got a lot of jam in their game. You saw Nick Suzuki from in close, Brendan Gallagher with a couple of opportunities. Cole Caulfield had 10 total shot attempts. Josh Anderson had 7 shot attempts. They were buzzing all night, and Jacob Markstrom was the reason why the Calgary Flames won that hockey game. That's it. That's all. The Nazem Kadri goal that got things going was of the soft variety, I thought. Arber Xhekaj wasn't so tight on his defensive coverage there. But nevertheless, mistakes are going to happen. The Montreal Canadiens aren't an upper echelon club, so to ask permission to seek perfection from the Montreal Canadiens, that's a you problem. That's not a them problem. Last bite here. Lock it in, final answer. The brisket was smoked. The spices were on point. There's a good play with the acid. You need acid to break up the fat. The coleslaw, fresh and crunchy, good texture play, and the bread was fantastic. And what I really appreciate in a good barbecue sandwich are texture plays, and that they don't, it's not like a pulled pork sandwich where everything's stringy and clumped together. I'm not the biggest pulled pork guy. I like it. I don't love it. But what I appreciate with brisket sandwiches and smoked barbecue sandwiches are big chunks, and they don't dice it finely. They leave some big chunks, so you get that nice breaks apart. Like you barely put any pressure to break it apart. It's so fall off the bone, juicy and delicious, like my mom used to say. Lock me in, final answer. We're locking it in. Solid 8.2. Just like Josh Anderson's game yesterday. On point, good, something to build on. And I'm going to hey, no stains today. I didn't make a mess of myself. I'm going to save the rest of this for later. So, yeah, go check them out. Thanks for watching. In the Car with Star. Like, comment, subscribe on our YouTube channel, our Facebook channel. And thanks for everybody for watching and staying tuned. Canadiens back in action. Tomorrow, they host Vegas. Then they're on the road at Boston, at Anaheim, San Jose, Los Angeles, and Columbus before they return home. So thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and go support local. Go check out Mange Tout, 5854 Sherbert Tree West. Beautiful. NDG.